Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Laura, for those of you that do not know, and today's video is going to, of course, be another romance recommendations video, but today we're going to be talking about books that have the good girl, bad boy trope. This is a trope that I personally love, and I know a lot of you guys also love because I've been asked to do this video so many times, countless times. You guys are constantly asking me for good girl, bad boy recommendations, so today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of my all-time favorites. I'm sure you're gonna hear some familiar titles in this video if you watch my videos regularly. There's some books in here that I just absolutely love and talk about all the time, but I hope you'll also find something new to read, or maybe if you haven't read one of those past books, I'll pique your interest. So getting right into it. The first book is Bully by Penelope Douglas. This is a book that I read a while back, maybe last year, and I really loved it. It's also a series, but they're all about different sets of couples. So the first book is just this one couple. This book follows two characters who grew up as next door neighbors, which caused them to be best friends growing up. They would always do everything together, just the closest friends you could have. And then one day the boy ends up going away to stay with his father, I believe, over the summer, and he comes back and he's just like a completely different person, and he's so mean to the main girl character, totally disregards her even though they have been friends forever. And so then years pass, the girl ends up going away for a summer as well, and when she comes back she's ready for her senior year, and she's so sick and tired of this boy ruining her life and being mean to her all this time, so she decides to take action and to fight back. I really like this book because I feel like while it does have the bad boy good girl kind of trope in there, it also explores a lot of other ones that I'm sure you guys love, like enemies to lovers or friends to lovers. So this one just has it all in there. It's really fun, super fast paced, and it's a quick read. Like honestly, even though it's a series, you could just read this one and it's just super fast paced, really fun. I think you guys are gonna like this one. Next on my list is called Lessons in Corruption by Gianna Darling. This one is actually a part of a series. This is the first book, and this is actually also a student teacher book, so if that's something you're into or not into, let you be warned. But it's this guy who around town is known as being kind of a big shot. His family's a part of this motorcycle gang. I've talked about this series before. So he's kind of a bad boy, but he also has like a really sweet side, which is like my favorite type of bad boy. I'm sure you guys can agree. But yeah, so he's like kind of this bad boy around town. He's in high school, he's a senior, I believe, and his teacher is this girl who's like just gotten out of a really bad marriage, super naive and innocent, hasn't really explored life a ton, even though she is older than this boy character. So there is a bit of age gap as well, if you're into that, if you like that. It is like the girl is older, boy is younger, which is something you don't see quite often when looking for age gap books, so if that piques your interest as well. But yeah, so they end up having this relationship, and it's really interesting because again, it's just a dynamic that we don't see a ton. I feel like a lot of student teacher books, it's like the man is the teacher, the professor, or whatever, so I really like that dynamic switch up, but we still have the bad boy good girl in there, so I really like this one. Like I said, there's 3 books in this series. The first 2 do have like the bad boy good girl kind of context, so look into it if you're interested, but the first book, it's definitely one that I would recommend to you. The next book on my list is called Bad Habit by Charlie Rose. This one follows a girl who is obsessed with her brother's older best friend, and he's like the ultimate bad boy, has like a really tortured past, has gone through a lot, he's kind of broody and mean, but she grows up being utterly obsessed with him. However, he's like totally out of her league and older than her, and then one day he also just happens to disappear from her life and he leaves. He comes back and he's like so horrible to her, and she has no idea why, and she's trying to figure it out while also trying to battle like her inner self that's kind of still obsessed with him and in love with him from when she was younger, but he's just horrible to her, and you get to find out why, and it's really great. I also found this book to be pretty quick moving. It's a fast read, but it's a really enjoyable one, and I think you guys will like it. He's kind of like the bad boy in this book, so I really like it. I think the dynamic between them is really interesting, and again, I know you guys are always fans of like other tropes being hidden in there as well, so having like the brother's best friend trope is kind of fun as well, so I think you guys will like that one. Next book on my list is one that I don't know if it could be like 100% classified as bad boy good girl, but it is The Truth About Heartbreak by B. Celeste. This is a book that I've talked about a lot on my channel, and I just really love. This one also follows a girl who's obsessed with her brother's best friend. However, this story is a little bit different because the girl comes from a background of being in foster care. She gets adopted when she's, I think, 13 years old into this family. So the brother is her stepbrother. and his best friend she's known growing up since 13, and he's always been super protective and loving of her, and they just kind of grow up and she's always been obsessed with him, kind of similarly to the last book, but he hasn't been like broody or mean to her. Like, he's pretty supportive, he just can't be with her. And the story progresses and you kind of get to know why. It's kind of like this instance where they're always trying to be together but it can never work. And I don't know, I don't really think he's a classified bad boy. However, I just feel like the trope makes sense within the context of the book and you'll understand why I would kind of put it in that genre. So I don't know, you'll have to tell me, but I still think anybody that's interested in this trope would like this book because it's kind of like a forbidden love, but also bad boy, good girl. I don't know, but I think you guys are gonna like this one and I would definitely check it out if you've not already. This next book is one that I genuinely talk about all the time and try to convince every single person I know to read because I love it so much, and that is Stepbrother Dearest by Penelope Ward. This is one that is just so controversial that so many people just kind of like don't listen when I recommend it, but I'm obsessed with it and I think everybody would like it. And it's definitely bad boy, good girl. However, it's also step siblings. But when I tell you that it's not weird, it's not gross, like it's not incestual, like it's so not. These two characters know each other for the span of literally a month as step siblings, and then something happens and you'll see what happens if you read the book, but like they're genuinely like, they're barely step siblings, like they're not even. So it's not weird in that aspect, like I promise you'll still like it. But the girl is definitely like that sheltered good girl, like super inexperienced, like innocent, and the guy is like super rebellious, like has piercings, like really cool, kind of mean, like the perfect bad boy basically. So if you love this trope, I think you'll really like it. Again, he's the bad boy with like the little soft side, so I think you'll enjoy that aspect of him as well. I personally am obsessed with this book and I love it, so I definitely would recommend for you to give it a go. It's super deep, has a lot more than just romance in it, and it's just like so heart-wrenching but beautiful and amazing. Really recommend it. Next book I'm going to recommend is Bared to You by Sylvia Day. This is the first book in the Crossfire series, and this series, it's basically, to me, I always describe it as kind of like an amplified, better written version of 50 Shades of Grey. So if that sounds enticing to you at all, I would pick it up. A lot of people always tell me to read this and I'm like, I read this series years ago. I just don't talk about it that much. However, I definitely think this book follows the bad boy, good girl theme. Again, it's very similar to 50 Shades of Grey, but I just feel like 50 Shades of Grey is a lot of nothing. Like, I like 50 Shades of Grey, don't get me wrong if some of you guys are fans, but it's kind of mindless. I just feel like the book is kind of dull in comparison to Crossfire. I feel like there's so much going on in Crossfire. I prefer the writing style. I feel like there's a lot more than just smut in it, which, you know, some of you might prefer 50 Shades for that reason, but I think that Crossfire just has a lot more to offer. So yeah, that's kind of my explanation on that one, but I definitely recommend it. It's also kind of classified as an adult erotica book, less than it is like a romance. However, it's just kind of different and fun and does follow the trope of good girl, bad boy. So if you want something kind of out of the box, a little different, I highly recommend it. Okay, next on my list is actually an author recommendation, and if you guys watch my videos, you probably know what I'm gonna say. But if you have not read anything by Abbi Glines, you gotta read her Field Party series, you gotta read her Rosemary Beach series, and you've gotta read her Seabreeze series, okay? These three series consist of companion novels, so every novel is about a different couple. However, 99.9% of the couples in her books are good girl, bad boy books. There are some that are not, like Misbehaving from the Seabreeze series. That one is bad girl, good boy, so if you're into that trope, there you go. But for the most part, they're all bad boy, good girl books. You can look them up or just read the whole series. Like, they're just so good. I love every single one of her books in those series, I swear. Just look them up because they're literally mostly bad boy, good girl books. So if you haven't read anything by her, that's a really great place to start, and you'll have content for weeks to read. So definitely go do your research, look up her books, see what seems interesting to you. I'll leave some of my favorites in the description down below just so you can get an idea. But I just recommend all those series that I just listed. They're really great, super quick, super fun, and definitely fit this trope. The next 3 books on my list, I feel like I've talked about so many times that they just don't warrant an explanation, but I wanted to throw them in this video for those of you that are maybe new to my channel, new to romance books, or just haven't read them and needed a reminder that they exist. However, I'm just not going to give an extreme explanation of what the book's about. I figure if you haven't read these, that would really shock me, but look them up and read them because they're 3 of my favorites. The first one, yes, everyone's been waiting for me to say it, After by Anna Todd. I would be shocked to hear that some of you guys have not read After by Anna Todd, considering most of my channel revolves around that book, but go check it out if you have not already. It's definitely the definition of a good girl bad boy story, so there you go. The next one is Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. This is a book that I talk about so much and I always say is one of my all-time favorite books. It still is to this day. I highly enjoy it. It's also a series as well as After. And the last book is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. This is one of my all-time favorite Colleen Hoover books, and if you've not read it yet, I highly recommend it. I feel like most people have read it if you're into romance or into Colleen Hoover. However, it is one of her older books, so maybe you just haven't gotten there yet. But Hopeless by Colleen Hoover is definitely a good girl bad boy story, and it happens to be one of my favorite books by her. So those 3 books I highly recommend. Look them up if you've not read them already, or ask me on Twitter to go into more explanation, and I will. I just figure for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into too much detail about those. But yes, those are my recommendations for good girl, bad boy romance books. I hope this video was at all helpful to you. If you have more recommendation requests for me, different tropes you want to hear about, let me know. You guys know I have endless romance recommendations, so please ask down below. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. You can also follow me on my social medias linked down below to get into contact with me on a more regular basis. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye!